I truly believe that the biggest challenge that our generation of parents will face is around our kids and technology. I'm currently reading this book, The Anxious Generation. It talks a lot about how we are moving from a play-based childhood to a device-based childhood and how that has impacts on mental health and focus and all of these things. But that's really formed the anchor of my feelings around screens with my son. My son is 8.5 months old. I'm not saying that we will forever be screen free, but as of right now, that's what we're doing, and we're pretty strict with it. I made a video about this 2 days ago. I got a lot of comments about this, a lot of questions about it, so I wanted to kind of talk about it a little bit more at length in case it's helpful. I did get a handful of comments from people who seemed to think that by me saying that my son played for 20 minutes by himself, I was implying that I never play with him. That's absolutely not true. In fact, I would say that because we don't use screens, I probably spend more time with him than I would if I did use a screen. If he's not in the mood to be by himself, he will cry. And I can't just put a screen up and crack on with what I'm doing. I'm then in a position where I either have to bring him with me or stop what I'm doing and sit down with him and play with him. So he gets a lot of playtime, a lot of talking time. And again, I think more so than if we used screens. In terms of how I encourage him to play by himself, I would say this has kind of happened organically, but there are a few things that we do that I think have helped. The first is around having a toy rotation. So I've taken all of his toys and I've divided them up into 3 buckets, and every Monday I will put one bucket away and bring out a new bucket. This just creates like a renewed sense of curiosity every week with the toys that he has access to, because he hasn't seen each toy in 2 full weeks, so he wants to play with them more. That's definitely been a help. Another thing that I would add, which to be honest is probably the most important thing, even more important than doing the toy rotation, is catching him in the right mood. Once my son has rested and been fed, he's much more likely to be happy to sit and play by himself than if he's hungry or if he hasn't napped in a while. I definitely have to get that balance right, and we're pretty strict with our routine. I think this also adds to him being very kind of like focused and a pretty easy baby. And again, I know some people will have a routine and try everything and it won't work for them because their baby might just not be into it. But I think having that routine and finding him at the right moments creates pockets of time where he's happy to play by himself. The next thing that I would add around how we got to this point where he can play by himself is that I intentionally will like sneak out of the room if I see that he's in his own world. If I, for example, am sitting with him on his play mat and then get up to get myself a glass of water and I come back and he's playing alone, I will try and just like sit at my dining room table so I can see him, but he can't see me and he can continue to play by himself. So I really try and just encourage that to happen as often as possible. You know that saying, neurons that fire together, wired together? I figure that any practice he gets around playing by himself is going to help him play by himself more in future, if you see what I mean. The last question that I got was around how do we plan on introducing technology in future? And to be honest, I don't really know. I definitely am very certain that at some point we will introduce, for example, like family movies. Someone brought that up. I think that's a great example of something that I think would be a lot of fun to do at some point. But I think for the first at least 2 years, I really want to have as little technology as possible. And what I would add to that is that there's really, I think, a hierarchy of technology. So I don't know if this is helpful. It's worked so nicely for us. I know that not everyone can do this, and I think that it's really hard if you're relying on, for example, grandparents to take care of your baby while you're working and you can't enforce your own rules if they're in your parents' house, for example. But if it's something that you can do, I think it's fantastic. I hope that helps. Again, check out this book if you want to learn more about the why and the what. And yeah, happy to answer any more questions around what we do if it's helpful.